lining up one phase of the game, only to have another one blow up, is just very much on brand for this team. Welcome to Northside Territory, the Chicago Cubs podcast on the Foul Territory Network. I am Patrick Mooney, and this is a special emergency episode after the worst loss of the season so far. Now, I am flying solo here because my co-host and colleague at The Athletic, Sahadev Sharma, had to scramble into rewrite mode after Monday night's devastating 7-6 loss to the San Francisco Giants at Wrigley Field. Now, this is only one game of 162. It's a long season. If you've been paying attention, listening to any of the sound bites out of the clubhouse or the interview room, or reading our quotes in The Athletic, Craig Counsell, Jed Hoyer, the players, they're all saying the same thing. Long season. A lot of time to turn things around. And they're right. They're certainly not wrong. But this game embodied so much of what has gone wrong so far. Now let's work backwards from Hector Neris and his blown save in the ninth inning. It was a weird yet predictable sequence with a catcher's interference by Miguel Maya, a Neris walk, and then finally the 3-run homer from Thairo Estrada that landed in the left field bleachers. The Cubs are definitely feeling the heat wave that has blanketed Chicago. I mean, the boos that echoed out through the friendly confines were about as loud as you're going to get on a Monday night in the middle of June. And honestly, sitting up in the press box before that Estrada at bat, a colleague turned to me and said, "They're going to blow this, right?" Or jokingly said something like, "There's no way they could blow this, right?" And I think just about any Cubs fan who's been following along this season could not have been surprised by just a gut punch loss that really left this team reeling. They're now a season high 5 games under 500. And this one stung because the Cubs finally got a few big hits. And they rallied back. And they created just a little bit of breathing room for a bullpen that has been under duress really all season long. So now let's hear from Cubs manager Craig Counsell, who's finding out what life is like without the all-star closers he had in Milwaukee. You'll hear Sahadev's voice in the Wrigley interview room asking about Neris and the closer situation moving forward.
We had an error on we had the catcher's interference. We had a walk, and frankly, it's a fly ball. It's the wrong night to give up fly balls, and that's 3 runs. I think if you've really asked me to evaluate Hector's performance, the walk is the only bad at bat.
So I'm assuming when you say that it's not a consideration, you're moving from safe situations right now.
Look, we got a bullpen. We got to find guys to get outs, and Hector's been a guy that's been reliable for us. So I wouldn't anticipate doing that. I mean, we're going to, always examine every best way to get 27 outs every day. And we're going to need Hector to be a part of that.
Now, hours earlier, Cubs president of baseball operations Jed Hoyer met with the media in the home dugout, which is something he normally does just about every homestand in good times and bad. And Hoyer, to his credit, might be the most accessible sports executive in the city of Chicago. And Hoyer talked about showing up to work every day, hoping this is going to be the game that turns things around, sticking with the process, expecting good things to happen. And the Cubs did get a few breaks. And they got home runs from Michael Busch and Ian Happ. But this team has been just out of sync for a while now. And the roster overall is just kind of disjointed. And lining up one phase of the game only to have another one blow up was just very much on brand for this team. I mean, Neris simply has to save that game. The bullpen overall has to be better. You still can't expect them to be perfect. And there's going to be a cost when every pitch, or seemingly every pitch, is high stress. And that's on an offense that Hoyer still believes in. This group is largely his handpicked group, kind of the core that he assembled to move forward, move out of that 2016 zone. And if you listen to him, hear it from him himself, and this is how he diagnoses the situation at this moment.
This group has kind of failed to produce for the last 46 games. I mean, we had a really good offense last year. We had a really good offense in April. Since then, we have not hit, period. And no one player is going to change that. We have to. This collective group has to figure this out. And that doesn't mean there won't be additions, but the answers have to come from within. And like I said, there's no reason to believe this group suddenly forgot how to hit. But certainly it's been a longer down spell than expected. I think everyone goes through ups and downs for a season. This is a much longer trough than we ever expected, and we have to get out of it. You can't keep digging this hole, and we can't keep the pressure we're putting on our pitching staff and our bullpen at night in, night out. I mean, every game seems to be up one, down one, tied. Going into seventh inning. This is not. You can't win enough that way. You just can't.
Look, you're not going to suddenly believe in the offense just because the Cubs scored 6 runs in a loss. I mean, Logan Webb is lined up to start Tuesday night opposite Justin Steele, so that may very well be another low-scoring repeat of the same game we've watched over and over and over again this season. So let's assume the offense will be a priority upgrade this summer. Now, how the Cubs perform over the next several weeks is vital. It goes to how much prospect capital Hoyer is willing to give up to supplement this largely underperforming group. It also goes to how much money ownership is willing to kick in to improve the team for a playoff push and possibly push them over the luxury tax threshold. But a catcher's interference in the 9th inning is a subtle reminder of another area where the Cubs are among the worst in baseball. And Neris is miscast as a closer. I mean, he's a great dude in the clubhouse. He signed up to be that veteran mentor, to work as a setup guy in the 7th and 8th innings. I mean, to be durable, available, and reliable, and offer his significant World Series postseason experience on some of the hugest stages and biggest markets in the game. He's mostly been what the Cubs hoped for. He's just not a lockdown 9th inning guy at this stage of his career. Not if you want to be considered a serious October contender. So Hoyer's got a lot of things to do between now and July 30th. But even if he desperately wanted to do a deal like tomorrow, is the trade store even open yet? I asked him that question and got an answer that Cubs fans probably don't want to hear.
Different times, can you explain how, even if you desperately want to make a trade, tomorrow, when the trade store just isn't open, can you explain the factors at play?
It's those two things. I think a lot of teams are not willing to make deals yet. I think especially when you look at the standings and third wild card, there's a lot of teams right around us. There's if you look at the standings today, there's just a lot of teams that are really close to a wild card spot, so that I think has changed it. There's just fewer sellers. There's a lot of teams at this point, always at this point, that you're just not going to make that decision yet. There's a few teams, but there's not many. And most teams are just not willing to make that decision today because there's a message to the fans that we're selling on June 17th. So those are two factors. And the third factor is simply like the teams that usually want to make trades right now, they're sort of willing to do it if you pay a massive premium, which, let's face it, most people, it's hard to do that. You're doing something that's irrational. So I shouldn't say trade market's not open. It's just incredibly difficult to make those kind of transactions on June 17th, and those are some of the factors.
To reset, the Cubs are 34-39 and in last place in their division. They're already trailing the Brewers by 8.5 games. A Brewers team, if you hadn't noticed, let Counsell walk and traded away a Cy Young Award winner and still just keeps on rolling. They have already lost or are losing season series tiebreakers to wildcard hopefuls that they're going to be going against the rest of the season. I mean, this gut punch loss is the one you look back on in October if the Cubs again miss the playoffs by one game. And that, for an organization that really ripped the Band-Aid off at the 2021 trade deadline, that would be an absolute organizational failure. So thank you all for listening. Thank you to the behind-the-scenes crew at the Foul Territory Network. I'm honestly not sure when or if they sleep, but they hustle around the clock to produce shows for you guys, which is very much appreciated. We'll get Sahadev going back here again soon. We'll be back with regular episodes and new guests later this week. Please rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll be back at you soon. Take care.